unfortunately, on Sunday. The season did end, Mav. And I just wanted to get your thoughts, man. Overall, obviously, you haven't really talked on camera about it since week 2, but or week 1, I should say. How will you remember this season?
The number one thing I'm going to remember about this season is the Green Bay playoff game. Just the way they fought at the end, that defensive line, the effort there, the special teams. I can't recall a time where special teams won the game for the Niners. And so that was big. Just yelling, get the ball when Hufanga was frantically searching for it. That's a memory I'll always keep. And then just the exhaustion of the QB debate that we all endured this year. And then finally, just as I was saying, the defensive line. I thought this was one of the best defensive lines we've seen for the Niners, and the Niners have had a lot of good defenses in the last 20 years. And this was one of the best, definitely. The way Armstead slid inside, partnered with Bosa and Ebukam, DJ Jones. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that word kind of encapsulates it. It's fun on multiple different levels. Obviously, the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance quarterback debate, that's kind of been yearly, it seems like, with Jimmy Garoppolo. Coming in from the off season into, going into the season, every single week, it was either, good Jimmy, bad Jimmy. If it was good Jimmy, hey, that's the reason why you don't need a rookie to start and all this kind of stuff. Bad Jimmy, Trey should start. So there was that, dynamic all the times. But I think that the things that I really enjoyed about this season that brought so much joy was I really saw like a shift in the demeanor of the players. Like initially, they weren't having a lot of fun. And you saw during the win streak, that fun just came back. And that was really what excited me about that 2019 run. They were just having so much fun. And this year, they got that back. Last year, you didn't see it too much. This year, you got to see that back, which it makes it fun for fans to be able to watch them having fun on the field, all the dance moves and the high fives and all that kind of stuff. The surgence of Debo as just the phenomenon that he's become is great, that he's on our team and we get to see him on a week-to-week basis. And I love that. And DeMeco Ryans, I was a big fan of him in the offseason. I don't know if you remember on our panels, I was always like really praising him. I thought he was going to be great. And he didn't make me a fool, right? He definitely showed that, he could be a great defensive coordinator. Seeing him come back, we were just talking about off camera, like we're really excited about that. So overall, I just enjoyed the fact that we were competitive every single week. I enjoyed the fact that we got to see meaningful football in the playoffs. And, even though we didn't get to where we need, I think we're in a good position, and it's going to be fun to see this offseason what they do to get themselves a little bit better than they were last season. And we get to talk about it all offseason too, man. So that's going to be fun as well.
Yeah, if you told me after that Indianapolis game that we would be getting to talk freshly about a game in February, I would be shocked, because just the way they looked early in the season, I thought it was a matter of time before Trey Lance took over, and then we would just be looking at what Lance could do this year to then build for the next season. Mm-hmm. So just the fact that they made it this far, and similar to that first Jimmy season where although they didn't make the playoffs, but he provided a lot of fun at the end of the season to like reinvigorate the fan base. I thought the run at the end of this season, including the playoffs, obviously, really got the fan base back into it and gave everyone hope that there could be a Super Bowl at the end of this season.
Yeah, man. And it seems like such a deflating loss. And I don't know why somehow I feel like the 49ers like lost by a lot. But when you really look at it, it was a field goal, right? But I don't know why it feels. I don't know if you feel the same way. It just feels like it was just a terrible, terrible loss when they were still competitive even in that game, even though it didn't end up the way that we wanted it to.
Yeah, well, the way the offense was looking, especially in that second or that fourth quarter, it seemed like a 3-point lead was a double-digit lead. Just it didn't feel like they could come back from that. But once the dropped interception happened, it kind of felt like you got punched in the mouth for the first time, and you're like, oh crap, like where do we go from here?
Right.
And the team wasn't able to respond from the Rams just controlling the game from the get-go. It was still fun though. like As we were saying, like the game was competitive. They had a chance at the end. It definitely did not work out on the last two drives. I don't think they had positive yards on the last two drives when it was the season on the line. But
Right.
the fact that they were there, it's nothing short of impressive because they took down Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think a lot of people thought that could happen. I think people in the Bay Area were much more confident than the national media in that game, especially when they're down 7-0 and the Packers are in field goal range. If they hit that field goal, I thought the 10-point deficit was it. Like I thought the Niners would be done at that point. So
Right.
there was a lot of fight. There wasn't enough fight in the last 3 minutes, but it's fine because it was still enjoyable. As born in 96, I haven't seen the 49ers win a Super Bowl. My point of having a successful season is, do they keep me engaged? Do they make the playoffs? That's all I want. I just want a playoff team. And they made the playoffs this year, and I was happy with it.
That's great. And I mean, look, the season ended. I feel like rightfully so on a Jimmy Garoppolo interception. You know, he's got to get one in there before he leaves, right? But we'll move on. So obviously hindsight's 2020, man. You know, we all had our ideas of what we wanted to see in the offseason and how the team went without the obvious saying, you know, with the obvious answer being the 49ers won the Super Bowl. If you could change anything about the season, and let's talk more maybe personnel or decision making overall, whether it be off season or mid season or whatnot. What would you have done different? What would be some of the changes that you made that maybe would have led to a different outcome this season?
Well, I know one thing that Grant's been touching on throughout the season is how the Niners kind of put their foot in two waters. Are they building for the future, or are they building to win now? With Garoppolo starting, it's obviously a win now situation, but drafting a lot of projects, it was building for the future. I'm not disagreeing with the Trey Lance trade because that's still up for debate over the next 10 years, whether that was worth it. I think it will end up being worth it. But the other draft picks I had a little question with I was into Aaron Banks just because of the size, but I wanted to go a different route. I wanted to go Quinn Miners, Paulson Adebo, and Paulson Adebo, Quinn Miners, and didn't like Trey Sermon at the time. I liked Michael Carter. I thought if they went Miners, Adebo, and Carter with their first three picks rather than Banks, Ambry Thomas, and Sermon, I think that would have helped them this season more. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if Thomas ends up being a lockdown corner, which could happen, that might change things. If Sermon figures it out, if Banks figures it out, that will change it. But those three players that I really liked in the draft that would have been available at the three picks, I think would have helped this year. Miners would have been the right guard, would have been able to take over for Alex Mack next year at center. And then they would have had the other two positions, and I think that would have worked out. But also, I had no clue who Elijah Mitchell was before the draft. So the fact that they found him, that's a real win.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing would be, for me at least, is I wish they would have maybe put a little more emphasis in that secondary. You know, especially with Verrett going down, you know, game one, week one, and that kind of throwing a wrench into things. You know, Mosley was injured in the beginning of the season or sick or whatnot. I forget which one it was, but yeah, I mean, that kind of piece together, getting guys off, you know, the couch to come in and play some veterans. I didn't really think throughout the season like the secondary was that big of a flaw, to be honest, because I think the defensive line and the safeties and what DeMeco Ryans was doing as far as his play calling kind of hid that deficit, I guess, quote unquote, as far as lack of talent maybe at that position, or at least seasoned talent. But it did burn us in that last game. Obviously, Cooper Kupp and OBJ went off, so it would have been nice to maybe have somebody that could maybe play a little bit more man and shut down, which I do believe Ambry Thomas is going to turn into that player. I think Mosley can be that kind of player as well. I think that we are going to be good moving forward, but I guess, you know, Band-Aid wise, I wish they maybe have picked up somebody mid-season when these guys went down versus kind of just run with everything else. I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, we were kind of discussing it. I think you were on the same page as me, like trading Jimmy from in the offseason. I think that would have, getting that type of money back, I think would have maybe plugged up some things and let Trey kind of work out his flaws on the job versus just off the bench, which we saw, obviously from the first time he played to when he played against Houston, there was a big change. um but yeah, I mean, I think those were the biggest things, like maybe pick up some more corners and maybe trade Jimmy so that there wasn't this whole kind of cloud around the whole team moving forward, just like we kind of envisioned. It happened with the Eagles the year before, and now it happened with the 49ers. Luckily, they were able to, somewhat salvage the season by making it to NFC Championship game. But overall, I think it was obviously the bane of all of our conversations throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, there will always be the people on Twitter that will complain no matter who's at quarterback. But I'm not going to miss the "we got to bench this guy for the next guy" conversations next year, if that's a possibility. I love talking about the guy that's actually playing and seeing how he can do better. So hopefully, if it's Trey Lance, we don't have to argue over. That's why I'm worried they sign a good backup, because if we have to do that conversation all over again, I don't know, but it'll be killer.
Swan Sog says, imagine if we picked up Creed Humphrey, play him as a guard, and have him learn the ropes from Mac at center. And when Mac retired, he slips right into center. What would you think about that, Matt?
Yeah, Creed Humphrey. That was what my idea was with Quinn Miners, but Creed Humphrey was great this year with Kansas City. So if he was a possibility, if the Niners were able to grab him, that'd be an upgrade, definitely. Because I think Mac knows the system, but I think he's maybe a year too old to be confident playing all 17 next year.
Right. And hopefully deeper than that, right?
Yeah.
And Swan Song, stay tuned, man, because we are going to be talking about, what we want to see in the future of the team this offseason. So definitely would love to get your points on that as well. No Border Sports, aka Crypto Ryan. What's up, my guy? Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I mean, overall, obviously hindsight is 2020, but if you were to tell us, in the offseason that this team would make it all the way to the NFC Championship game, have the ball with 2 minutes left or a little under 2 minutes left to get to the Super Bowl, we would look at it and say it's a successful season. So you can't really blame too much on that. Obviously, we're being greedy right now by saying we wish we would have done this, and this. But at the end of the day, I think if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's plan was to ride it out with the 2019 roster, to see how far they could get with Jimmy at quarterback, have these young rookies but learn under, especially Trey Lance, learn under these veterans for a year, increase Jimmy's trade value, and then see what you could get for him after the season based off of what they did. You would look at that and say, if that was the plan, they did that brilliantly, because I think everything is falling into place where there is going to be a market for Jimmy Garoppolo. They are probably going to get better than what they would have gotten maybe in the offseason if they traded him this offseason. And Trey got a chance to really sit and watch and learn, and hopefully that does him wonders as well.
Totally agree. Yeah. I think there will be a much bigger market for Garoppolo this offseason than it possibly would have been last year. Think of how many teams need quarterbacks. I know people like to hate on Garoppolo, but it's undeniable that he's a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, which I know people might think that sounds weird, but there's 32 teams. So there has to be 32 starters out there. He's probably a top 20. So if you just put that together, if there becomes a bidding war between Pittsburgh, depending on what Green Bay does with Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love didn't look ready, so they might need to acquire someone. Washington might need to acquire. Yeah. Tampa, Carolina. How many teams can we go through? There's a lot of teams. If it ends up being a bidding war, I'll take an early second, late first.
Right. And my money is on Cleveland, my guy. That's the dark horse that I think they're not going to they don't want to give big money to Baker. I think that Jimmy would fit right into that system very, very well. And, he's he's Kirk Cousins 2.0, right? So Stefanski did wonders with Kirk Cousins with the Vikings. Why not get Kirk Cousins 2.0 with Jimmy Garoppolo, right?